Yeah.
Yeah.
All
Hey,
right.
Chris.
We're live.
Okay. Hello. Like we have almost all of us. I'll give it another minute, and I think we can start right on time. Okay, I think I see everyone. In terms of commissioners, I think I see everyone but Diane. So I'm going to go ahead and we do have a quorum though, so I'm going to go ahead and start. Okay, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Conservation Commission meeting of June, it's not July. It is October 1st. My name is Heather Charles Liss. I'm the chair of the commission. This meeting is being held remotely in accordance with the Town of Braintree's temporary emergency policy for remote participation under the open meeting law pursuant to Massachusetts Executive Order of March 12, 2020. We're using Zoom software for the meeting. The information for joining the meeting by audio or video is posted with the agenda on the town's website and the link for accessing plans. Those plans are available throughout the meeting on the town's website, and staff will also, or consultants may also share their screens for those participating via video. In accordance with the open meeting law and the Town of Braintree's policy, the meeting is being recorded by the town. If any participant wishes to record the meeting, please notify me now so that I may inform all other participants in accordance with open meeting law. Okay, the record can show that no participants expressed a wish to record the meeting. And as a reminder for commissioners, we'll be doing roll call votes in accordance with the town's guidance. And we'll now begin our agenda with public hearings under the State Wetlands Protection Act and the local Braintree Wetlands bylaw, unless I indicate otherwise. Please be advised that under Chapter 53 of the Acts of 2020, the statutory deadlines for the permitting process have been suspended or tolled, now extended 45 days after the COVID state of emergency. So while we're permitted under this order to suspend our business until the order is lifted, the Commission, in consultation with our staff, has decided to continue processing the applications and holding public hearings remotely. We're trying to follow the normal guidelines to the extent possible under the current conditions. For each hearing, we're going to start with the applicant, then I'll go to staff or the commission for comments and open it to the public for any comments. And it's worked well in the past for me to offer up motions just for clarity and designate a second. So we can continue to do that, assuming people agree with me. I don't see Diane, who's done it in the past. So Chris, as vice chair, will you be my designated second? Thank you very much. Okay.
I'll second that.
Excellent. The first hearing we have is a request for determination of applicability for 60 Albee Drive. The applicant is Bo, and this is a continued hearing. Is the applicant on the line to give us an update?
Hi.
Hi, good evening.
Hi, yes, my name is Kanfo. I am the owner of 60 Albee, and I'm here for the continuing of the hearing. The last time I was here, and there was not enough information on the conceptual layout that I proposed. So today I'm here again with the more updated plan, and I have submitted to Kelly. So, and my apology that I sent my engineer and I did send the paperwork out yesterday for last minute. So probably all the commissioners didn't have the most updated one. So, but Carol should have one. So if Carol could present that.
Yep. I'm sharing my screen with that plan.
Thanks, Kelly. We'll just give it a minute to come up.
Do you not see it?
So I see a folder open with various items, but not the actual plan.
That's not good.
I see. So I just briefly saw something about Keolis popped up for a second.
How about now?
It says that you're starting screen sharing. Yes. What I can see right now is a PowerPoint with the, it looks like you just went to the first thing and here's the plan.
Okay.
Perfect. Okay. Whatever you did, it worked. So Mr. Vo, do you want to tell us anything else specific about the plan?
I can take over for Mr. Vo. Convo had contracted me. This is Dan Armstrong, Strong Civil Design.
Thank you, Dan. I was wondering what you were on the line for.
Yeah.
Please proceed when you're ready.
Yeah, no problem. So basically, a couple months ago, Con reached out to me and said, "Yeah, I went and submitted some stuff to the Conservation Commission, and it really wasn't clear, and they wanted some more information." So I met with him, walked his site, took a good glance at what he was doing, saw what he presented to you guys, and I was on the same wavelength as you guys, as there just wasn't enough information to make a ruling on. Since that time, I had the surveyor go out there and locate every tree that's in his backyard. So we had a better understanding of what kind of vegetation was really out there, as well as, so we, basically want to avoid any taking down of trees if we can. After that, I kind of talked to him a little bit more about what he's looking to do. And so we came up with a layout plan that shows where the pool is. There was another plan I sent to Kelly as well that was more colorized. I'm not sure if you have that one that kind of shows. Did you have that one too? Just out of curiosity.
I don't think I sent the color one.
Okay, just because it's a little easier to follow than this drawing, but that's okay. We can still talk on this one. So basically, there's a pool deck that's around the pool that's is held back with a retaining wall along the downslope side. The wall is about 5 feet high. Then it gets backfilled as well, and then slopes down to existing grade. The design criteria really for me in this aspect was to keep the entire pool deck outside the 100-foot buffer, which I was able to do, as well as try to keep any disturbance outside the 100-foot buffer as possible. There was a little bit of disturbance of trying to do a little bit of a seating area at the lower grade there within the 50 to 100-foot area, but again, not to have any additional impervious area. The main reason for us submitting this and coming back in front of this in this meeting was the fact that he hasn't been in front of you for a while. I kind of wanted to just give you guys an update of where we're moving with the project and kind of get your feedback of where we are now, and if you guys saw any other things that we should be taking into more account as we finalize the design.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Armstrong. Kelly, do you have any feedback or input as staff that you'd like us to know?
Just, I know the applicant is aware, but the commission should also be aware that they need a grading permit from the planning board and a minor stormwater permit. So there could be some little changes to the plan, but I mean, provided but the limit of work stays about the same and they're in the outer 50-foot buffer, I don't see any issues moving forward. I didn't prepare conditions for tonight, but I think I don't see any reason by the next meeting that this couldn't be approved.
Okay, thanks very much. Commissioners, questions or comments?
I just wanted to confirm that there weren't any trees getting removed within the 50 to 100. It didn't really look like it, but I wasn't 100% sure from looking at the plan.
There's actually no trees being removed at all in this design that we have right now.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Okay, and I don't have any further questions either. Any members of the public wish to ask a question or comment on this project? Okay, so if that's everything, I think we could continue to the next meeting for draft conditions. I'll just.
I think Peter was trying to say something.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay,
Thank you.
We're looking
Like
at
a team. It's like a team effort here. Peter, go ahead when you're ready, Commissioner Williams.
We have a proposed retaining wall. Do we have any details on that?
Not at this point in time. I haven't got the details for the wall yet.
What do you anticipate it being?
Segmented block at this point.
Okay.
So if those details are available, in time for the next meeting, I think that will be helpful.
Yeah, as I say, this concept we kind of finally came down to this concept plan as of Monday this week, so it was one of the last minute, but didn't want to wait a whole month before at least showing it to you guys.
And Peter, just so that you know, I could hear you okay, but you're a little quiet. So I don't know if there's any way to boost the volume, your microphone volume or something on your end, just a little FYI.
Yeah, I can do that.
Okay. Okay, anything else?
No, I don't have any issues with the plan or any concerns.
Okay,
Nor I.
great. And I don't either. I just wanted to make one sort of procedural comment, which is that keep in mind that for an RDA, there's no process to amend it. So if there's any possibility of more significant changes as those other permit processes go forward, it may make sense to leave conservation open, but we have a whole month before our next meeting. So hopefully there's time to resolve it, and hopefully any changes would be minor enough in nature that they could just be approved by our staff as field changes.
Sure.
Or comparable.
Yeah, we'll have a better. We're planning on meeting with Melissa and the rest of the crew starting next week and kind of getting their feedback as well. So we'll have a better understanding next month if we should continue one more time or not.
Okay, sounds reasonable to me.
Awesome.
Okay, if there's nothing further, I would offer up a motion to continue the hearing for 60 Albee Drive to our next meeting. I'm sorry, I do not have the November date in front of me. It is November
That'd be the 5th.
November 5th.
November 5th. Yep.
Is there a second, Commissioner Hayward?
Second that.
Okay.
Second.
And as a reminder, I'm doing roll call votes. Commissioner Crowe,
Aye.
Commissioner Albrecht,
Aye.
Commissioner Albrecht, there, I heard you. Okay, Commissioner Francis
Aye.
and Commissioner Williams.
Aye.
Okay, it's unanimous. We will see you in a month.
All right. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Heather, I don't know if you want to take the request for certificate of compliance out of order, but I know Attorney Marinelli's on the call right now.
Okay, thank you very much for pointing that out. Unless others have, if anyone has an opinion on this, please speak up. This is in regards to the COC. The letter came through on this. I'm inclined to wait only because I know that we have a lot of other people on the call that are here for other hearings, and perhaps the conversation will be really fast, which would be nice for everybody. But since I'm not certain of that without getting into the discussion, I don't feel like it's fair to make others wait. Is the commission comfortable with that? And we can always hear it, at the end of the meeting, if need be.
Madam Chairperson?
Yes.
Yeah, Frank Marinelli, and I have another hearing in a different town, and that was the reason for the request, but that's okay. I'll rejoin as soon as that hearing is
Okay.
concluded.
All right, thanks for your understanding. I'm just trying to be the fairest that I can to all participants, so I appreciate your understanding, and we will see you later on.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Bye-bye.
Okay, so we'll move on to our next public hearing, which is a request for determination of applicability for the MBTA's commuter rail lines. The applicant is the Keolis Commuter Services. And for this item, I'll note that we are only hearing this under the State Wetlands Protection Act because the MBTA is exempt from local bylaws. Is the representative here for that item?
Yeah, this is Matt Donovan from FTC Engineers representing Keolis.
Good evening, Matt. You can proceed.
All right, if I could share my screen.
We are not set up for that, but I have these maps.
Okay, that's okay. I just wanted to let the commission know that we do have a vegetation management website that was included in the narrative of the submission. It has the vegetation management plan, all the maps for all the different towns that the railroad runs through, and the yearly operation. So we are required to send those to you via certified mail every year, but this is a good tool for anyone who is interested in staying updated to access any of that information. So I can start. The RDA was submitted as required by CMR 11 and specific sections of CMR 10, which require us to submit the delineated maps to confirm the boundaries of the resource areas are accurate. The requirements are part of a 5-year vegetation management plan, which is designed to manage and control the vegetation necessary to keep the railroad and public safe. As the plan is executed, great measures are taken to keep the sensitive areas protected. And the sensitive area restrictions are listed and described in detail in CMR 11.04, as well as Section 8 of the Vegetation Management Plan. The plan is regulated on all levels from federal to state to municipal. And as part of the 5-year plan, your commission, the Board of Health, the Board of Selectmen, and the Department of Agricultural Resources are supplied annually with yearly operational plans that are always consistent with the 5-year vegetation management plan, but go into a little more detail about the specific vegetation management activities going on each year throughout the 5-year program. The vegetation management plan includes an integrated vegetation management approach where chemical application as well as physical and mechanical methods are used to combat the vegetation. Keolis has implemented best management practices used throughout the plan in an effort to limit the use of chemical application, which has been a main objective for them over the last few years. The maps that we provided you with are mainly made for the chemical portion of the plan. They were made with USGS and MassGIS layers to determine the boundaries of the sensitive and protected areas. And we get a list of all private wells along the railroad from the Department of Agricultural Resources. As you can see on the maps, there are areas that are depicted as limited spray zones and no spray zones based on the blue and yellow colors. So in the field, these the tracks themselves are marked with the same color-coded system that you see on these maps, and the markings in the field correspond to the same locations that you see. There's a spray truck who is certified and licensed to do this application by the state of Massachusetts, who performs the application, and he will always be accompanied by an environmental monitor who is a direct employee of Keolis's environmental team, who's in the truck with these maps on hand, operating, instructing and working with the operator as necessary. Most importantly, the yellow zones will never receive any form of herbicide outside of the track structure itself, which is federally mandated to keep completely free of vegetation. In the blue zones, they're similar to the yellow zones, where they're limited spray zones where they will never be sprayed more than the allowed interval, whether it's 1 or 2 years, depending on whether it's light or dark blue. In these zones, they'll always be sprayed on the track structure itself, and beyond that, it's really only sprayed on an as-needed basis and if the conditions call for it. So because these areas are restricted, if there's ever any like wet conditions or anything, they won't be sprayed, even if it does, the interval has gone by and it can be. They don't spray in these areas if the conditions are wet or aren't conducive for it. More of an effort in these blue zones is taken, in these blue and yellow zones are taken into physical and mechanical methods to control the vegetation. And the last thing is the chemicals that we use are all come from the Department of Agricultural Resources approved sensitive area material list, which can be found on their website with all the details. And it can also be found in our vegetation management plan. Sometimes those chemicals will be rotated because the vegetation can build up a little bit of a resistance to certain chemicals, but they will always be from that list, and that the chemicals that are used are included in the yearly operational plan for that year. So that's the process right there. In 2016, your commission issued a -5 determination. In these maps, they haven't updated to see if any wetlands have changed, but they have. I can confirm that these are the same maps that you issued the -5 determination for in 2016. So I think that's the process and everything right there. So if you have any questions, I can open the floor up to you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Denneman. So we have not only a memo from Kelly on this, but we also have some guidance that came out recently from MACC and MSMCP. For folks on the call who may not know what those acronyms are, it's the Massachusetts Association of Conservation Commissions and the Massachusetts Society of Municipal Conservation Professionals. So keeping in mind both of those, I know Kelly, you laid out your recommendation. Is there anything else that you want to add before we get into the discussion?
No.
Okay, thanks. Commissioners, questions for Mr. Donovan or thoughts on the recommendation?
Yes, excuse me, could chime in here that
Yes,
as long as
Commissioner
they're
Hayward.
going through, you know, the pesticide bureau, and they've got applicators that are certified, and they're working with the Department of Agriculture Resources. I know for a fact that the pesticide department has gotten much more difficult because I am a certified applicator and being audited for different things, and so they're very much staying on top of people lately, where there were maybe some concerns in the past that, you know, some applicators were, you know, I'm not really paying attention and not staying up on their education and their certification. So I'm feeling pretty good that Mr. Donovan's mentioned working with a lot of those groups right at the moment.
Great. Thank you very much for the input.
Sure.
Okay, any other commissioners?
No, I didn't have any questions with the recommendation based on the application in front of us. It looks like the only thing we can even do at this point is just decide whether or not the delineation will continue on, and it's not anything further that we're technically being asked by the RDA. So I think that the recommendation for I guess, what is it? Positive that it's the same or negative that it's the same? I forget the way that one is worded.
A positive. A positive 2.
Yeah.
2A.
But I didn't see any issues with that recommendation.
Okay, thanks, Commissioner Crowe. I will add a comment here too that I don't really have a lot of questions for you, Mr. Donovan. Thanks for the presentation. I am pretty familiar with this process, having been through it before, and I will say I think the recommendation for a positive does make sense because, you know, it's sometimes the positive determination sounds like a bad thing, but in this case, it's simply confirming the resource area delineation and confirm, you know, they are in fact jurisdictional. And I admit that in the past, in the recent past even, I did actually think that maybe the exemption was appropriate, the -5. But even prior to receiving this guidance, I was looking that over and feeling that this really doesn't fit the categories that are listed in that particular exemption. It's quite specific that it's electric, gas, water, sewer, telephone, telegraph, or other communication services. Sewer wasn't added that long ago, so it's quite specific. Doesn't mention transportation. So, and in light of the fact that we have now a staff recommendation and these 2 other professional organizations, I'm inclined to go with those recommendations. That seems appropriate to me. And I think also, I look back at some of the regulations, you know, besides the wetlands regulations that go into permitting this work. And it seems to be in keeping with what the MBTA and QLS are required to do. You know, we're essentially supposed to be confirming the resource area delineations. So I think that would achieve those goals. I agree. You know, any questions I may have about the specifics, I think has largely been answered by the plans themselves, which I know have lots of additional careful review from Department of Agriculture and other agencies. So, so I do not have any other comments, but I do see that we have somebody who's raised their hand. So this is not technically a public hearing. Since it's, you know, it's a request for determination of applicability and it is not being heard under a bylaw. However, I'd be happy to give the members of the public the courtesy of allowing people to speak, just to maybe keep it a little bit brief and try to stay on topic. So let me just look. Robert Kearns, did you want to make a comment? I see that you raised your hand. Kelly, can you make sure that everyone's unmuted?
Hello?
Yeah, hi, Mr. Kearns, we can hear you. Did you want to comment on this?
Yes.
Item? Okay, please go ahead.
My only concern was wondering when they're doing the mechanical vegetation management, are they supposed to remove the vegetation off-site? Because in the past, I don't know if Kelly remembers this, the MBTA commuter rail dumped some of the vegetation into the Manatic River underneath by the Rock Falls. So I wonder, are they supposed to be removing this off-site and not putting it back in the river. That's my only concern.
Thanks very much for the question. Mr. Donovan, can you please address that?
Yeah, that shouldn't be happening. There definitely are regulations for how that works, and it's a what do you call it? A contractor that comes in and has regulations that need to be followed, and it's either going to be taken off-site or put in a chipper and chipped within 100 yards of where it was. I forget the exact regulations, but that shouldn't be happening.
Okay, thanks very much.
And
I guess then if anyone witnesses anything like that in the future,
so that's something
I
that
would
could
suggest,
be.
that anyone could reach out to Kelly, or other appropriate persons. Okay, anyone else?
If you don't mind me responding to what you had to say, Heather, would you?
Oh, sure, go ahead.
So basically, the issue with the positive determination is that it requires a NOI to be issued, just based on the language in the positive. Any positive determination requires an NOI if you look at the Form 2 determination that you'd be filling out. And I know you said that particular exemption doesn't fit the mold for these maps, which is totally fine for us, but there definitely are other exemptions that could be listed in that -5 that do conform to this work. And even more so, I know you were mentioning going with the MACC guidance, which is just a guidance, and that no regulations have changed in the last 5 years, but they do even say that a -3 determination could be issued as well, and that would be appropriate, right in the first paragraph of the second page of the guidance. So that's another option that we've been getting a lot. We've been getting a lot of -5s still since that guidance has come out, but that has been something that we've been getting to, the +2A with the -3, because basically you're approving, it would be, if you were to take that route, if you're comfortable issuing that, it would be approving the maps with the positive, and then saying then no NOI is required for the work with the -3 determination or any negative determination.
Okay, thanks very much for your input. I appreciate, where you're coming from. And
yeah, because the exemptions that you listed in the determination in 2016, it didn't mention that that utility exemption that you just read out as an example. I think you listed the 10.58 and the 10.03,
correct,
which do still apply. But yeah, whatever you guys feel comfortable issuing as a determination. I just wanted to point that out, that the guidance itself does say that the -3 is appropriate.
Okay, thank you. I guess I will similarly respond. So the concern with the negative, you are correct, the guidance mentions the -3, but it has to be for particular work, which in this case is would need to just be herbicide application, not any mechanical means of vegetation control. Is that something that what is your response to that?
I'm trying to find the
Sure.
ACC letter right now.
So it's the top of the second page. A -3 determination for work in the buffer zone that will not alter a resource area would be appropriate for that particular work. However, the RDAs as filed do not make it clear that the determination sought is limited to that particular work, and WTA Keolis have not requested a limited -3 determination. I think the last sentence is maybe less critical now, as you're indicating that you would be comfortable with that. But
right, I think it's
so
saying
we
we don't specifically request that in the RDA, but we did the same RDA for 103 towns, so it's different for every town, and a lot of towns do issue the -5 with those exemptions, which is why it was filed in that way. But every town is obviously different, have different resource areas and different.
Well, the -3 doesn't exactly cover it either, because it's just for work within the buffer zone, and some of this work is not just in the buffer zone, it's also in resource areas such as riverfront area and floodplain. So it doesn't exactly cover it either. I mean,
Right. So you can.
let's be honest, the problem here is potentially, and this is not something that we can solve, that this really doesn't fit into the boxes that we have the tools in a sense that we have in front of us, in my opinion. There is no specific exemption. I'm thinking of the fact that the regulations for rights-of-way management, though, do allow the exemption, essentially. I mean, I certainly don't want to, I'm not trying to argue with you. I'm just trying to make sure that we issue the most appropriate decision. I think you're hearing that none of us are objecting to the delineation or necessarily to the herbicide work, but just making sure it's handled in the most appropriate way. I'd like to ask you, Kelly, since Matt's given us some, additional suggestions and input, do you have any, follow-up recommendation based on what he's added tonight?
No, I'm inclined to follow the MACC guidance.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah, my concern just goes back to, I'm not sure if it was an oversight or deliberate, but the request for determination only marks off the request for determination being the delineation. There's no other request for any other determinations as to whether or not the Wetlands Act applies or exemptions apply or anything else. The cover letter does, but the RDA itself doesn't mark off that box.
Right.
And I wasn't sure why that was, and whether or not we even could issue a determination above and beyond what was asked for.
Yeah, that's a good point. I'm not sure that we can either.
Right. So with the positive determination is basically asking us to file an NOI to do any work in your town, and that just Keolis, they just wouldn't do that to do this. This happens every year. It's work that's required to keep the right of way.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, what I would suggest is maybe a continuance with it. I don't know that an NOI is actually required, and that's not what I'm trying to say, but it seems like it might be more efficient to allow an amendment, whether it's a new form or just an update asking us to actually make that determination with a little bit more detail on what the exemption is that it's being applied under, or what the work is, basically how we're being asked to decide that a negative determination on the work itself should be issued.
Right. I think it would be the same two exemptions that you guys listed as in the -5 determination in 2016 would still be applicable for this. So one thing about continuing is we did this for 103 different towns, and if we continue for every town, we'd be into next year with these meetings. So we really do. We would like to get a determination, whether positive or negative, if that's okay with you.
So what were the exemptions previously noted, or maybe you can just tell us what exemption you think that this is?
So 10.036B is a presumption concerning herbicide application. Any application of herbicides within the buffer zone other than as provided in 6A shall be presumed not to alter area subject to protection. So you can list that exact exemption. Given the -5 determination, it gives you the opportunity to limit it to whatever exemptions you feel are comfortable with issuing. So that's one of them, is 10.036B, and the other one I believe you did was 10.586A, I believe.
So riverfront area.
riverfront area, which is the railroad has a grandfathered exemption there.
Okay. Unfortunately, I would, these may be okay, but I really want to make sure that we're doing the right thing, because that's our main sort of charge here. And rather than, I know the regs pretty well, but I would like to look
There's
at it.
a lot of them.
There are. I would really feel more comfortable just going back to that language and double checking. Opinions can change over time. I respect what you're saying, that we issued something like that in the past. It doesn't mean that the interpretation, obviously we want to be consistent, but it doesn't mean that we shouldn't make certain that that is still the correct way to interpret everything that, God forbid we conclude there was a mistake made in the past. I don't just want to rely on a past decision without seeing it for myself.
Right,
and
I said,
I agree with Commissioner Crowe. I think that you could modify the form to indicate specifically that that's what you are requesting, or even if that's not possible, put it to us in writing. I understand that you want to move things along, but as you said, you are getting decisions right away from some communities, so I don't think everybody is sort of pushing back, but I feel like the best way to move forward would be to continue. Otherwise, we could just issue the positive it would be 2A this evening, saying that the resource areas are confirmed accurate. And I don't think that's necessarily saying that you need to do an NOI either. The right-of-way regulations specifically say that work is exempt.
right, it's just the legal interpretation of a positive determination does require it, which is why Keolis would be appealing any of those, which is just, it's extra work. And
I think we're telling you that we would not require an NOI specifically for the herbicide application under the rights of way management. But if the commission just verbally telling you that is not enough, which I completely understand if it's not, then I think probably the path forward would be to continue the next hearing. We'll have a chance to look carefully at those other exemptions that we might be able to approve it under as positive and negative. And you could, if you're willing to provide something in writing stating that that's what you're seeking. Is that?
Yeah, but
reasonable?
this is all on record, right? It was with something in writing, not.
Well, we're looking at the form. You haven't requested anything on the form beyond, the resource area determination.
Right, and
we're being asked to also. Yeah, so we're also being
negative.
So we are also being asked. So in essence, you're also asking us to not just confirm the delineation, but also to make a determination on work that's being proposed, which is a separate box on the form. And no, a verbal request, in my opinion, is not enough. It needs to actually be a written request that that's what you're asking us for. And it could be as simple as resubmitting the form with that box checked. I think between both of those two things, I think it makes sense to continue.
Okay, yeah, and it's kind of just the opposite of the same thing, just the opposite of what you're basically is saying. An NOI isn't required, but in writing it is. So it's just opposite of that, which is the only that's why we need something other than just the positive. But if we can,
I see what you're
if
saying.
we think there might be.
I think based on what I'm hearing from staff and others who have spoken, I think the two paths forward are either 1, we vote right now and we just do the positive 2A, or 2, we continue to the next meeting and then we would consider the positive 2A as well as a negative determination, which is perfectly acceptable to do a positive and a negative. I know you know that.
Right. Okay.
I think that would make sense then to continue. There's nothing further.
And I know you said it in the last hearing, but
Yeah.
when is your next meeting?
Next meeting is November 5th.
November 5th?
November 5th, yes. So, and I'm suggesting a continuation. I'm willing to do that because I sense that, I'm hearing that you're not comfortable with the 2A, and since I feel like there's a, chance that we will be able to do that as well. Kelly, before I make a motion, are you comfortable with that path forward?
I am, and I would note that, Matt, your firm is representing the Four River Railroad as well, and that is scheduled for the November 5th meeting, so you or someone from your company would need to be here anyway that night.
Right, yeah, no, I just looked at the calendar, which is why I asked, which that does, we can definitely make that work, so.
So I imagine it will be without diving ahead, I imagine it will be a similar discussion for that one. So maybe you can get ahead of that one and potentially resolve both at the next meeting.
Yeah, that sounds good to me.
Yeah, okay,
I can
great.
get something to you in writing tomorrow, for that continuance.
Okay, so with that, I will make a motion to continue the request for determination of applicability for the MBTA's commuter rail lines in Braintree to our next meeting on November 5th. Is there a second, Commissioner Hayward?
Second.
Commissioner Crowe?
Aye.
Commissioner Albrecht?
Aye.
Commissioner Francis?
Aye.
And Commissioner Williams?
Aye.
Okay, it's unanimous, 600. We will see you then. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, everyone. Have a good night.
You as well.
You too.
Okay, next we have another new request for determination of applicability. The address is 360, also known as 400 Wood Road. The applicant is HRP Wood Road LLC. Is someone here to present on that?
I am, Madam Chairperson. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you
Great.
fine. Thank you.
Thank you for your time and members of the commission. So my name is Jim DeVellis. I'm a professional civil engineer, and I'm representing HRP Wood Road LLC, other word, an arm of Hilco Redevelopment Partners. And there's a few members on the from the team on the meeting tonight as well, in case of questions. So the reason I'm here tonight is we also applied for an RDA, and we submitted plans because we are proposing work within 100 feet of BVW and within 200 feet of a perennial stream that was flagged under previous efforts before we acquired the property. So the plan that Kelly has in front of you is our site plan that was submitted, and it's a 14-acre parcel, pretty much fully developed. It's a 150,000 square foot building. So the big rectangle in the middle is the building. Down to the middle on the bottom of the plan, it looks like a circle. That's a cul-de-sac. That's the end of Wood Road. So as you come into the site, the entire site is pretty much paved. It's an industrial site. So when HRP purchased it, they are investing in redoing the building. So the footprint stays the same, but they're basically gutting it out and bringing it from a old tired building up to a Class A. And they've been working with various committees and people in the city for quite a while now to get it to this point. The parking area, all the work that were proposed is within the limits of the existing pavement. And after we submitted the application, Ms. Phelan and members of the Hilco team walked through the site. There were some comments, and we resubmitted a plan to supplement this plan here. So there's another landscape plan on this. So looking at Ms. Phelan's report, she categorized it as primarily maintenance type work, the replaces or repairs, existing conditions. And I'm saying we're actually improving it. So the landscaping L1 plan was submitted. Basically all of the islands that are on site right now, the landscaped islands, don't have landscaping in it. So we're providing probably about a little over 2,600 plants, trees, shrubs, grasses throughout the landscape islands and around the building. The other things that we're doing on the site is we're milling the pavement. It's tired, it's failed, and we're milling it and overlaying the existing pavement completely within the limits of where the pavement is now. We are upgrading the curbing, the sidewalks. We're putting curbing around the edge, replacing the old curbing. Really, if we could go back to the C1 plan for a second. Okay, so on the left side of the plan, you see those oval going up and down the site. That's 100 foot and that's a 200 foot buffer. So the jurisdiction on the left of the building, all we're doing there is taking the sidewalks that are around the building and replacing them, and there's a whole bunch of, I don't know what the design concept was before, but a lot of boulders that are around the outside of the building. taking those all out and then replacing it with fresh landscaping. On the right side of the building, on the back right, you see wetlands off-site that have 100, yeah, exactly. Those wetlands have a 100-foot buffer. And really what happens there is that buffer clips the corner of the building. So that's that square or rectangle that juts out are existing loading docks, and they're covered, they're inside the building. So even though it's work inside the building, we referenced it to put it on the plans. On the left side of that internal area, there's a loading dock that's staying where it is. On the inside right, it's a pad that has an open dumpster. So we're getting rid of the dumpster and we're raising the inside pad 4 feet to make it the one continuous loading area there. And then the dumpster is going to be moved outside of the jurisdiction of the Conservation Commission to the front of the building where all the loading docks are, and it's going to be a covered dumpster, completely contained. So between the milling and resurfacing, restriping, taking the lights and changing the fixtures to LED, adding landscaping, having gone through the fire department review, they wanted the hydrants that are out on site to be replaced just because they're old. So basically unbolting them and putting in new ones. And really that's it. So it's a lot of acreage, but I mean the jurisdiction in the corners are very minimal, basically throughout the site where it's under the maintenance. So if you look at the RDA, having just listened to the last discussion on the box checking, we did check all of the boxes to ask for a negative determination that basically it's under maintenance of an existing site and we're doing improvements that allow you to have jurisdiction because the flags are the flags, but the work that we're doing is minor enough to not have to file a notice of intent. So I'm happy to answer questions or any of the people that we have here from the team if you have questions about the tenant itself.
Okay, thank you, Mr. DeBellis. Am I saying your name correctly?
Oh, you are, yep.
Okay, terrific. So I think it would make sense, as we often do, to start just with the wetland resource areas, since that's where it all begins for us. And so, as you mentioned, you checked all the boxes, which include asking us to confirm the delineation of the resource areas on site. So I just wanted to ask you, Kelly, if you are comfortable, I know this is the past ANRAD has expired. Are you comfortable with the delineation now as shown on these plans?
I am, yeah. I mean, I think it's important that the ANRAD that we did 3 years ago included riverfront area, and that's a big change. That the way it was originally filed, it did not include riverfront area. So, clearly there wasn't any information to support the determination that that stream was intermittent. So we should not be approving that. They added the riverfront area to the plan. So we could approve as shown on this plan, or we could not make any determination on the resource areas at this time.
Based on your past site visit, is it a site where you feel like it's unlikely to have changed? I know there's a pond it's at great, a lower elevation, which may not have, but if there's any doubt in your mind that it may have changed, we don't need to make a determination necessarily. But if you think it's a site where it's probably the same, we could.
Yeah, I think it is probably the same.
Okay, that's helpful. Yeah. All right. Any commissioners have a comment on resource areas? Okay, seems straightforward enough. And I agree that there's no reason to not. There was no evidence to suggest that it's not still a site with riverfront area. Going to any comments, any other comments from the staff memo, Kelly has mentioned, there's an area that's eroding, that some riprap was proposed, and she's suggesting a vegetated solution. Do you want to respond to that now, Mr. DeBellis?
Sure. So when we did the site walk, there was one area that we were proactive, and when we saw there's a pump house that's out there now that pumps water from that pond, not only for our site, but other sites in the area. So what happens is it's paved right up to that area, and over time, it eroded on 2 sides of the building. Not major, but I think the feeling was while the contractor's out there doing everything else, he might as well kind of hop the curb there and fix the riprap. So I proposed that, shown on the plan, that we would add riprap. And the second plan that I submitted has some extra detail. We said we would pull out the riprap, put in Marafi fabric, replace by hand, placed riprap over 2 feet, angular, and then infill with other riprap. I think that's sufficient. What Kelly had suggested at the site was to also put plants in that area. I don't have a problem with that at all. In my experience, when you put shrubs along the riprap, it actually hides a lot of stuff that happens over time. If it's completely open and all you see is riprap, you know right away that there's a problem. It's not to save money or it's not to be difficult, but I just think over time you put plants in there, it goes through the fabric, plants die, roots come up and disrupt it. So I'm happy with the riprap. If the commission or if Kelly is pushing for plants, we can put plants in as well. So I saw the conditions and I spoke to my client and they're happy with all of the conditions. So I guess I'll just leave it up to you guys what you want to do.
Okay, thanks very much. That's helpful. Does anyone have a strong opinion on this one? Or, well, actually, it doesn't have to be strong. Does anyone want to comment on this? No? Okay.
Yeah, I was comfortable with the recommendations.
Okay. Okay, thanks. Yeah, and I agree. I mean, I think sometimes, you know, riprap is just necessary, but I think if a vegetated solution would work, that would be preferable from a resource area protection standpoint. They don't have to be shrubs. They could be something lower growing so that you can still have the visibility of the slope. You know, I would think that the condition, if you're comfortable with the condition, I think that's fine. I'm comfortable with it as well. And we could just leave it at that. If it turns out that, you know, a vegetated solution is just not going to work, then it could be revisited, you know, at that time.
Okay, like I said,
that
that's
would be
fine.
considered a minor change. Okay, other comments or questions on the plan?
Can I just clarify one issue? I think the way it was worded was curbing and or vegetated solution, because it does seem if there was a curb there, then the water would not be causing this erosion. It would be directed to catch basins further down the site. Is that?
Oh, good point.
Yeah.
So I guess the question then, the representative is, are you also comfortable with having the curbs and berms as well as doing vegetation on the slope?
The way it's there now, it kind of sheet flows from the pavement along the edge, and there's the low spot where it kind of brought into one area. If we had to pipe it, then we're adding a lot of excavation. We're adding structures, piping, new outlets. I think what we can do is similarly what we did around the outside. We took the old, what they call Cape Cod berm, where it's not a full vertical, but it's enough to direct water along the edge, and we can bring it down to one central point and kind of over design that riprap area. So it'll continue to go in the same area, but we'll make sure it's protected. What I want to avoid is bringing in, because to put the structures and piping and bring it to a different drainage area. I think it's more problematic than the small area that goes in there. But the way that the condition is written, I think it gives us the ability to move past tonight and then work with a solution with Kelly on this.
Okay. I would tend to agree, but this may be a good time for me to make one of my comments because it may end up being relevant. So you indicated that this would be, that I'm thinking specifically of the pavement work, and I'm mostly focused on the riverfront area, or the area of the site that drains to, you know, the riverfront area. You referred to it as mill and overlay. So the plan says milled and reclaimed, and on the, I'll just say right side of the plan, it indicates that there's a line where, you know, above the line is reseal and stripe, below the line is full depth. So can you just confirm, those are, I mean, I know that people use slightly different terms for pavement work, but in my mind, there are these mean different things. So can you just clarify what depth are we talking about here?
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a good question because it's changed a little bit. Initially, when we looked at this, it was going to be just seal coat and stripe, but the pavement is too far along. I think we'd be back every year revisiting that, and putting this investment on a building and having it look that way was just something that the owners didn't want to do. So then we went to what some people call full depth reconstruction, which is taking up all of the pavement, going down, replacing it, 8 inches below with gravel, compacting it, and then putting in new bituminous binder and wearing course. That was an extraordinary cost to the site, and we found out that the pavement base is in good shape. So what we're proposing on the back of the building, it's just seal coating because the pavement's in good condition back there. So I think that's that line that in the back, it's just a seal coating only. From the line towards the front of the building, we're going to mill it, and which it does, it kind of breaks it up in place and then puts an overlay on that. So you're not putting a wearing course on cracks, you're putting a wearing course on a base, but it's not going into the area below the pavement. So there's not going to be large areas of regrading and excavation. So it's kind of in the middle ground.
So it's not actually a full depth reclamation then?
No, it's not.
Okay.
No.
Okay. Thank you very much for clarifying. And just by way of further explanation, the reason I ask is because in my mind, at least, that makes a big difference to, what we might ask for and what would be appropriate. If you're, a simple mill and overlay, I understand that that's a much different level of disturbance, first of all, but second of all, asking for additional work like stormwater changes would be a significant, larger burden. Whereas if you were doing full depth reclamation down to the soil, that would be the time when I would think that it would be appropriate to start asking you to look at stormwater more carefully. And by way of backup, I'll add that that's the way that EPA views it as well when, say, a NIPDES permit comes into play. So in a way, I'm disappointed because I'd love to see some stormwater improvements, but in a way, it makes the path forward a little bit easier. And, if that comes up in the future, you guys just have that in the back of your minds. Of course, stormwater improvements are always welcome. So the one other question I had is with the existing catch basin, at least one is in riverfront area. And I may have read this somewhere and I just can't recall. Has anyone checked to see, do these catch basins all have hoods, oil absorbent pillows, basic infrastructure like that? Have they been maintained? That would be basic stuff I'd like to confirm.
I didn't look in all the catch basins. I know on the plan we'll put silt sacks and the sediment control around the outside, but we're not touching any of the structures. I'm sure part of this process will clean them all out because I don't think they've been cleaned in years and they're in disrepair, but we weren't planning on changing any of the piping or catch basins or any of that stuff.
Okay, if the catch basins do not have hoods or oil absorbent pillows, is that something that you might be willing to add as sort of a relatively minor retrofit?
So the plastic hoods that go in there, not very expensive, and I think in the long run it's something that would be expected. So I can always confer with my clients and then come back to you, but they're on the line if anyone wants to shake their head no. But I think that's a reasonable request.
Okay, great. I mean, obviously I'm not asking for anything that would require a major excavation. So I really appreciate the willingness to do that. I think maybe they have them and it's no big deal, but if they don't, that makes such a big difference. Another comment I had is about the seal coating. So seal coating my understanding is that there are two main types of seal coat, more of a coal tar based seal coat and an asphalt based seal coat. Coal tar being significantly having more negative impacts from a health and environmental standpoint. And so I realize you may not have the answer to this off the top of your head, but I wanted to see if the applicant would be willing to commit to using an asphalt-based seal coat. I will say it's not, they're both used. I don't know that that's as common as the coal tar, but there's there's documentation that the coal tar over time flakes off, it does migrate into the aquatic environment with negative impacts. So I just asked the question whether that might be possible.
I'll be honest with you, I've been doing this for a long time and I don't know the answer.
No problem. I think I came up with this commission once before, and I can provide some documentation. I just don't have it on hand right now. It's better for human health as well. I don't know if there's a cost difference, to be honest. My final comment is that I wondered if thank you so much for adding plantings to the islands. That's a really nice positive for the site and should look nicer as well. But in the area, at least that's in the jurisdictional area, is it possible to add some more natives? Some of the species, although attractive, are not, most of them are not native. So I'd ask if that could be considered. It's mostly there's like one large island that's within riverfront area almost entirely.
It's a reasonable condition. We didn't provide the landscape on this, and I'm looking at the planting. I'm thinking that they're all native species. If not, I think it's a fair ask to make sure that they're indigenous and drought.
Yeah, I can't remember off the top of my head. I know some of them are, like there's bayberry, which is, but then there's some sumac, which is, but I know that they weren't all, so it seemed reasonable to ask.
Yeah, we can go back and have them change it if it's not indigenous or native to the area.
Thank you. Anything else from the commission?
I have one comment.
Sure, Kelly.
That we should add a condition that we get the drainage maintenance record. So when they clean out the catch basins, I'll just add a condition that we get that documentation, that it's been done.
Sure, I think that sounds reasonable. Thanks. Any members of the public wish to comment on this item? Okay, I don't see any hands raised, so I think we're okay. Mr. Villas, would you be comfortable continuing to our next meeting so that we could revise the conditions and maybe you could get answers back on those other items?
The reason I brought 4 people, because we're under a tremendous schedule to get this done with tenants. I was hoping where we had the conditions, we could close tonight if that's at all possible. If we can open up, if there's any of, I think the only outstanding thing is the type of seal coat, but everything else I think we can answer and agree to. I'm not in a position to push it, but we're on a tight schedule, and if there's any chance we could close it tonight, that would be great.
And if the seal coat was an issue, perhaps we could add to have it confirmed with Kelly sometime after the determination issues.
Okay. Sorry, I'm just making notes as we go. Kelly, would you be comfortable with us moving forward if we I think basically I'm being asked to come up with some conditions on the fly here. I'm okay with that, but I want to make sure that you're comfortable as well and the commission's comfortable.
I am, and I remember the other site, I probably should have thought of this before, but the condition, I can just pull the condition that we used on the seal coat for a site that we did, this came up recently with.
Thank you, because I just didn't think of it soon enough to dig into my own files. Okay, anything else from the commission on this path forward? Okay, so why don't I just read off a couple of potential additional conditions while Kelly's searching for seal coat. So let's see, we'll add maybe after draft condition 4, before condition 5, which should be the last condition, we'll add a condition that hoods and oil absorbent pillows shall be added to catch basins if not already present. And then next we can say maintenance records for the drainage system shall be provided to the commission. This is not part of the condition, but I feel like we should indicate that they need to be cleaned out if they have not been recently. Typically the requirement is for catch basins on a site like this, I would imagine, to be cleaned out like 4 times a year. I don't know if there's an O&M for the site, but maybe I'll continue that condition to say, if maintenance has not been completed within the prior 3 months, maintenance shall be completed prior to the end of construction. And then plantings within, let's see, actually, let me pause for a second. I don't think there's any plantings proposed at the back of the building. Is that correct?
Correct, nothing in the
Okay.
back.
So I think we're just talking about the riverfront area. So then the next condition could be plantings within the riverfront area shall be native species. No non-native species, invasives, or cultivars shall be permitted. And then the last one would be the seal coat condition. Do you have it, Kelly? Do you want me to just come up with one?
I don't have it. I'd have to look through that file, which I can't do right now.
Yeah, no, I understand. I didn't know if you actually had it at your fingertips, which would have been rather impressive, frankly, especially though I gave you no warning. I'm sorry. So then I'll just say seal coat shall be asphalt based. No coal tar seal coat shall be permitted without prior approval from the commission. I'm thinking that, so that's the end of the condition. So I'm thinking that caveat, sort of, if it becomes problematic for some reason, there's sort of an out. There's sort of an out if it's necessary. It proves difficult to source or it's monetarily a huge hurdle, something of that nature. I didn't write those down, but I saw many people noting things down. So hopefully somebody got all that. Does anybody have any comments? Did that all make sense?
Makes sense. Makes sense.
And Mr. Willis, you're comfortable with all of those as?
Yeah, let me just put Jeff Lauren on the spot for a second. Unmute for a second, because I've been working with Hilco for a number of years and he runs a lot of the construction, but Jeff, are you okay with this? You've been following. I just
Yeah,
on the seal coat one.
Yeah, definitely 100%. Also new to me on the seal coat, and it's great to know. And we'll do our research and talk to you folks about what's the great seal coat to use here. But we'll do it again, on our properties to come to if it's the right thing to do. Wanted to chime in and let you guys know, like throughout all of our properties in this region that I'm a part of, we do quarterly clean outs of all of our catch basins. I'm assuming my property management team hasn't done it here yet because they know we're, planning to mill and do a construction job here. And then when it comes to, but we'll get it done right away and we'll make sure it's done quarterly after construction. And then when it comes to the native species, I'm the one who did hire the landscaper architect who put this together. But I thought he was told to do all native, but if they're not, I'll make sure they are. So we'll do our research on that too and make sure they're all native and coordinate with the team as well. Anything else, Jim?
No, that covers it. Thank you. Thanks, Jeff.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for the comments and your efforts. And excuse me, I really appreciate everyone being willing to agree to those additional conditions on the fly. Thank you so much. I think it will make a real positive difference for the site. So thank you. It sounds like if there's nothing further, I think we're in a position to issue. Okay, then I would move to issue the negative determination of applicability for 360, also known as 400 Wood Road, with conditions as drafted and amended during this meeting. Is there a second, Commissioner Hayward?
I second that.
Okay, Commissioner Crowe?
Aye.
Commissioner Albrecht?
Aye.
Commissioner Francis?
Aye.
And Commissioner Williams?
Aye.
Okay, it's unanimous 6-0, and I'll make a motion to close the public hearing. Is there a second, Commissioner Hayward?
I second.
Commissioner Crowe?
Aye.
Commissioner Albrecht?
Aye.
Commissioner Francis?
Aye.
And Commissioner Williams?
Aye.
Okay, again, 6-0. Thank you so much, everyone.
Okay. Can I just add just quickly, now that you've already voted, I just wanted to say this was an expedited process. I just wanted to thank Kelly. She did a great job on all the paperwork and meeting us out there and jumping through the hoops on the advertisement and stuff. And not many agents do that, jump like that so we can get, you know, pavement done before the winter. And we all appreciate that. Thank you.
Thanks very much. We really are grateful and appreciate Kelly as well. So thanks on our behalf for your nice comments. All right.
Yeah, we second that on behalf of ownership. Thank you, everybody. You've all been great to work with.
You're very welcome. Good luck with the project.
Okay.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Okay, good evening.
Good night.
Okay, so our next notice of intent that is on the agenda has requested to continue. This is for DEP file number 8-683, 40 Arnold Street and 71 Adams Street. And Kelly, do we need to vote on this since it's actually on the agenda? Did that come in after the agenda published? Or you got a request in writing, so it's okay.
I did get a request in writing.
Okay, so we don't need to vote on it. Thank you for clarifying. Okay, and finally, we have a continued notice of intent for DEP file number 8-682 for Gordon Road and Watson Park. The applicant is the town of Braintree. You recall at the last meeting, we issued one order of conditions for the same site, for the marsh restoration and shoreline stabilization work. And this is specifically for the berm work. And this was continued to allow time for conditions and a few final items to be recalled. Is the representative here? And if so, do you want to add anything?
Woods Hole Group is not here tonight.
Okay. All right. I hadn't checked. I didn't think so. So I'm very pleased with the two issues that were resolved with regard to the memorial bench and tree and the plantings. Thank you to everyone who helped resolve those. It's much appreciated. Kelly, did you have anything to add beyond what's in the memo?
No.
Okay. Do any commissioners have any other questions or comments on the project or the draft conditions?
I have two quick questions.
Yeah, sure. Peter, go ahead.
On condition number 25, where it says the applicant shall be responsible for the routine upkeep of the site during construction. Can we also put in there upkeep of the site and erosion control measures?
Sure. That seems reasonable. I see that as condition 24.
It just reinforces it from the beginning. I thought it would be helpful.
Yeah. Sounds reasonable. Anyone else?
I also on number 32.
Yeah.
We're allowing them to release groundwater into the stormwater drain. Is that all right with the Stormwater Commission?
Kelly, thoughts?
I can confirm that, but I think dewatering often does release to storm drains once it's cleared up.
I think that from a NIPD standpoint, this doesn't totally answer the question. I think groundwater is one of the, if it's clean,
Different
is one of the exempt sort of flows.
Yeah. If anything, it would need a groundwater injection permit, but not stormwater. So I'll retract that.
Okay. Oh, I see your point. Okay. Okay. Peter, anything else?
No, I'm all set. Thank you.
Okay. I had a few small suggestions. Condition 26 about the educational signage. We did something similar on the other order, having it be approved by the commission. So I thought it would be nice to have that here as well. So the applicant shall provide a detailed plan to the commission. I would add for review and approval and then go on to the rest to provide public education. And then there were two conditions that I felt like maybe should be, they're sort of perpetual. Conditions 33 and 35. So it's about the maintenance of the rain garden and earthen berm, and it's about the prohibition on pesticides and herbicides. I feel like ordinarily we would have those as perpetual conditions. The only difference here is that that berm's going to go away. So I almost don't want to just do our straight language about perpetual and insinuate that they're that those will last forever. So I thought perhaps if everyone agrees, if the language that this is perpetual could be included at the end of each of those, then it could also go on to say, that the condition shall remain in effect for the berm until such time as the berm is removed. I mean, it's a little unusual to write it that way.
But it's
I think it works though.
I would agree.
Okay. Is that okay with you, Kelly?
Yep.
All right. And then the last one I had was 36. We have the minimum of 5 native trees. I thought it'd be good to specify no cultivars. So maybe just our standard language at the end, no non-native, invasive, no non-native species, invasive species, or cultivars shall be allowed. Okay. All right. Is anything else from the commission?
No.
Okay. And I think we're ready to issue the order for this. So I would, you know what, to be fair, I should, since we have not yet closed the public hearing, are there any members of the public that wish to comment on this item? Yes, Mr. Kearns. Kelly, can you make sure that it's unmuted? Okay, we hear you now.
I haven't read the conditions, so I just wanted to clarify, is the removal of the berm in there?
Yep.
Yes, good question.
Okay.
I can read it off. So it's in its own section, removal of earthen berm. Oh, it looks like a little typo right over there. Here.
That word always trips me up.
No problem. So it should be removal, it says earthen, so it'll be removal of earthen berm. Per the notice of intent, the earthen berm is intended to be a medium-term flood protection measure. The earthen berm shall be removed when mean high water level reaches elevation 8 feet, and that's NAVD 88 datum. Removal of the berm is required to allow for salt marsh migration into the park as sea level rises. And then in bold, this condition shall survive the expiration of this order and shall be included as a continuing condition on the certificate of compliance. So that's about as strongly as we can do it in an order, and hopefully that will do it. Good question. Anything else? Okay, then I'll go ahead and make a motion to issue the order of conditions for DEP file number 8-682 for Gordon Road, Watson Park, with conditions as drafted and amended during this meeting. Is there a second? Commissioner Hayward?
Second.
Commissioner Crowe?
Aye.
Commissioner Albrecht?
Aye.
Commissioner Francis?
Aye.
And Commissioner Williams?
Aye.
Okay, unanimous 6-0, and then I'll make a motion to close the public hearing. Is there a second? Commissioner Hayward?
Second.
Commissioner Crowe?
Aye.
Commissioner Albrecht?
Aye.
Commissioner Francis?
Aye.
And Commissioner Williams?
Aye.
Okay, again, unanimous 6-0. So we're done with our public hearings. Move on to other business. We have the request for COC, but I'm guessing that the representative is not back on the call. Oh no, I see him.
Yeah, I just got back on.
Wonderful, perfect timing. Okay, so this item is a request for certificate of compliance for DEP 8-674. The address is 201 Commerce Drive, and the applicant is Mar Scaffolding Company. This item was continued because there were some outstanding items that we still had questions about from Kelly's memo. And since then, we very recently received a number of documents, letter, photos, largely related to our request for a canopy over the fueling station. So I guess if any commissioners want to jump in, feel free. Otherwise, I'll let Mr. Marinelli go through it with us.
Sure.
Okay,
Madam
so yeah, why don't, Mr. Marinelli, why don't you give us, the highlights?
Sure. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to present this evening. Frank Marinelli, for the record, 439 Washington Street, Braintree. And I'm pleased to appear on behalf of Mar Scaffolding, who I originally represented before the planning board when we had the facility constructed and approved by the planning board back in 2018. There was also an order of conditions that Carlos Skelty, the CEC engineer, handled before the Conservation Commission. After the approvals, as was noted in condition number 61 of the planning board decision, the 2018 planning board decision, we did apply for a fuel island, and they're not uncommon in the town. There's one that's 5,000 gallons at Seal Coating, the former Coca-Cola plant. There's one as well at, there's another 5,000 gallon tank at Locomotion up on Roxanne Park Drive. So just by comparison, neither of them have canopies. Canopy does not relate to fire suppression at all. I've submitted to you the testimony of the Deputy Fire Chief, Stephen Sawtell, who actually wrote that in an email back to me yesterday that did say that no canopy was required as part of the Mars scaffolding fuel island. And indeed, the planning board had the plans back in early 2020 and no canopy was required. It's not any kind of code or regulation requirement. But just to round out the discussion on that, a canopy really in this context would be just for the comfort of somebody that's filling a tank. For example, Academy Bus does have a canopy, and I did that project as well up on Roxham, but that tank is 12,000 gallons. It's almost 2.5 times what MAR has. And in Academy, you have a very active site where the buses return, and the first thing they do is they refuel. So a bus driver refuels the bus, and then they go through the wash bay, which is next door, and then they park the bus. So it's a completely different active fueling car bus wash, comfort of the driver under a canopy, filling up the bus. That's the way it works. So there is no need for the canopy, and the 5,000 gallon tank that was installed has all of the state-of-the-art bells and whistles. There's the alarm system that I've supplied pictures of that's on the building. I also got up on top of the tank on the ladder there on Monday and spoke with Kelly after that visit. And as you mentioned, Madam Chairperson, submitted all of the photos. But there's a big basin on top of the tank where the nozzle connects when somebody is filling the tank, and there's no issue with the connection. Is really a closed system, and with all of the protections of the basin. There's also a mat that is, I provided a photo of that. There's a yellow mat that's attached to the tank itself, which is sized to cover the catch basin, which is 59 feet away if there ever was an issue. The pavement where the fueling vehicle drives onto has grooved pavement. So all of the protections are there, including in the catch basin itself. It has oil water separator, as you know, from the approval. So that addresses the canopy issue. On the certificate of compliance overall, as you can appreciate and members of the commission can appreciate, the certificate of compliance is necessary for financing because MAR is converting from a construction loan to permanent financing. So things like the certificate of compliance have to be presented. The other 3 things that Kelly and I were talking about today by email were the shrubs in the basin. Actually, there were about 270 grasses planted in the basin. They are doing well from the report of my client. There are about 70 shrubs on the side leading down to the basin. And due to the extreme heat this summer, about 30 plus of those have struggled. So those are being replaced by Mento Landscaping of Braintree. And we expect that to happen right away this week. I was told today by Dave Hughes of MAR. So you know, we have no problem making a commitment on that. It's already in the conditions to maintain, and we're doing that. But it is not, the condition relates to the basin. These are kind of on the side, but we're doing it. And then that was on shrubs. And then also on the dumpster, there was a question about the dumpster. The dumpster was a 6-yard dumpster. It was outside. It was maintained, and you know, there was no overfill that would have violated the condition. However, we've since reduced to a 4 cubic yard dumpster, and that's inside the building. So that doesn't present any problem at all. And I think that that was it on the certificate of compliance. And let me just see, dumpster, shrubs. The other things have been addressed. Oh, there was one question about, you know, please don't mow the area between the bioretention and the infiltration basins. And we have instructed Mento Landscaping not to mow in that area. So I presented those items by return email to Kelly this afternoon, when she did send an email this afternoon saying, what about the shrubs, the dumpster, and that last issue about mowing? And I addressed those three points, Madam Chairperson. So we respectfully would appreciate the issuance of the certificate of compliance. I will say that MAR has, MAR is a 6th generation company. They have served the Boston building trades during all of that time for over 100 years, and they've been based in South Boston. They bought this property. We all know that for decades this property existed with piles of rubble, old equipment, and they really have done a fantastic job as relates to a commercial project in an industrial area. So with that, we very much appreciate the issuance of the certificate of compliance. Thank you.
Heather, you're muted.
Pardon me?
Thanks, sorry about that. I seem to have a record of staying on mute accidentally like once a meeting. I guess it could be worse. It could be better, it could be worse. Sorry about that, everyone. I said thank you, Mr. Marinelli, for that. And I'm just gonna open it up to any questions or comments from the commission or from Kelly. I mean, if it would be helpful, perhaps we want to begin with the largest, you know, what we have the most documentation on, which is this canopy question about the fueling station.
No, I don't. It looked to me like the applicant had responded to the concerns, and I didn't have any particular questions on it.
Thank you. Kelly, you don't have to comment, but do you have any additional comment on that?
No, I really wanted to understand why this was different than Academy Bus, which has the canopies. Apparently it's related to the size of the fuel tank and the comfort of the fuelers. So I didn't have time to review the documentation from the deputy fire chief.
Okay, thanks very much. And it's true, the material was received rather late. I just had time to read through it. If anyone feels like they haven't had time to read through it, feel free to speak up, because I know that is important. I had a couple of comments. First of all, I won't keep you in suspense. I'll tell you, I also agree. I feel satisfied at this point with that particular issue, but I still want to make a couple of quick points. One is that, it seems that we're not going to require a canopy, and there are other, you're getting guidance from other sources that it's not required. There are still benefits from having a canopy over fueling areas, regardless of the size, related to stormwater. So it's not uncommon that there are small leaks right around these sort of systems. just in the natural course of business. I'm not suggesting anyone would be not maintaining it. And having a canopy over it means that rainwater is directed a little bit away from that immediate area. And so you have less of that fuel getting caught up in stormwater. There's more chance for that fuel to evaporate or to get caught up in the groove pavement. So it's not in my mind just for comfort or other reasons, though I'm sure that is an important factor for many people. Another point I wanted to make is that, I appreciate that the planning board approved it. The bottom line is that it should have come to the Conservation Commission. We are separate and distinct. Yes, it would have been ideal if, that had been relayed on a departmental level, but there's nothing in the regulations that says that if you get an approval from the planning department, that means you're okay with conservation. It's a separate and distinct planning process, and we would have just talked about it then and saved a lot of time now, and maybe it would have been the same outcome. So I just want to make sure that point is clear. I also recognize that the property owner is making a lot of measures to improve the site, and I appreciate that, and it sounds like there'll be careful attention paid to maintenance going forward. So I do appreciate that too. Okay, how about the other items? Anybody want to ask a question or comment on the dumpster, the shrubs, or the mowing? Commissioners or Kelly?
No, I don't have any additional questions.
Okay,
Neither do I.
thanks, Kim. All right.
So the plan there, so the
Yeah.
plan going forward is to only have a dumpster inside. There's no exterior dumpsters planned.
No, the size of the dumpster is reduced from 6 yards to 4 yards, and it's currently inside, and there's no stated need for anything larger. If we do, I would respectfully submit that we'll let you know, send a letter to the staff and let Kelly know. But they've been operating now and don't see any need for that.
Okay, thanks. And then I think if that was the case, if a larger one was needed, then it would just need to comply with that condition that
Yeah.
it's properly contained and maintained. So I'm comfortable with that as well. With regard to the shrubs, it would be nice to see the new shrubs going in, but I think where you have, you're at the point of putting them in, I think I could be comfortable moving forward on that. Kelly, you have been to the site. Do you feel comfortable with that at this point?
Yeah, I agree. It would be nice if we were at the point where they were already in, but I can live with it if they're going in this week.
So then I would ask that that staff / the commission be provided with documentation that those shrubs have been installed.
Yes. Yeah, and there has been real intense heat this summer, and I think that they wanted to be sure that the shrubs would take. So, but we will do that.
Okay, great. That would be great. And then I think the mowing is, I'm happy with the response on that. I realize we didn't, in retrospect, I wish we had put a condition about the mowing, but that is not the case. So I would just ask that that be sort of remembered in the future. If there's, I'm not specifically requiring anything here, but it's easy to start mowing, a new contractor comes on board, and it's easy to kind of, forget where that mowing is supposed to stop when there's an area that doesn't have shrubs. So, whatever applicant owner feels is appropriate to sort of make sure that line is clear, whether it's, again, not requiring this, just a suggestion, whether there's some small, rocks that could be placed or some other demarcation, or no mow zone, whatever. That would be great if they want to do something like that. Because I can't recall if everyone was on this call last time, but I just want to bring up one more time that connectivity really was a key reason why the commission, when this was approved, allowed for that isolated wetland to be filled in. So that's why I'm sort of raising that point as being so important.
Okay.
Yeah,
Understood.
thank you.
And
Okay.
I know Dave Hughes had previously been involved and sent some correspondence to Kelly and was working with Kelly. I know he told me he left her a voicemail today. So, I find Mara to be diligent and certainly wanting and willing to cooperate. And they've clearly invested over $6 million to purchase the property, and millions more to build this out. So it's really good to have them in town to use this commercial site and develop it the way they have reasonably. And I think they are a good business to have in the town, and that they will comply with the plantings that David told me. He had Mento engaged. Mento does the mowing out there, and that's the instruction that was given to not mow that area, which was the final point. But David Hughes, who I think the commission has had before you previously, would be here tonight, but he did have eye surgery, and I know he left Kelly a message today.
Thank you very much. So thank you, Mr. Marinelli, and thank you to Mar for the efforts. Certainly hope that Mr. Hughes recovers quickly.
Thank you.
And we really appreciate the assurance of continued good efforts to maintain everything going forward. That's really appreciated. Is there anything else before I make a motion? Okay, then I will move to issue actually I'm going to stop myself right in the middle. Kelly, are there any continuing conditions? I think there are, right?
Yeah, the condition for the any shrubs to be replaced. That's a.
Oh yes, of course. Okay. All right. Thank you. So I'll make the motion to issue a complete certificate of compliance with continuing conditions for DEP 8-674, 201 Commerce Drive. Is there a second, Commissioner?
Excuse me.
Oh yes.
I found my list here of surviving conditions. There are several.
Oh.
Number 34, the operation and maintenance plan. Number 35, no sodium chloride. Number 30 on the dumpsters. Number 37, no invasives. Number 38, maintain the bioretention area. Number 39, replace any shrubs that do not survive. And number 40 on snow storage.
Great, thank you. So I will amend my motion to issue the certificate of compliance with continuing conditions 30, 34, 35, 37, 38, 39, and 40. Is there a second, Commissioner Hayward?
Second.
Okay, Commissioner Crowe?
Aye.
Commissioner Albrecht?
Aye.
Commissioner Francis?
Aye.
And Commissioner Williams?
Aye.
Okay, it's unanimous 6-0. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you all very much.
You're welcome.
Have a good night.
Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you. Okay, we are on to the Cedar Swamp Conservation Restriction. We have gotten a memo from Kelly on this, as well as a copy of the CR, and seemed rather straightforward to me. Kelly, do you want to add anything to what you had in the memo?
No, unless there's questions.
Okay, commissioners, questions, comments?
I just had one small thing, and now I do not have it open in front of me. Just the conservation restriction itself. It talks about something not to exceed 8 in width. I think it's a walkway, and I think it's supposed to say 8 feet, but that was just.
Oh, like it's a typo.
Yeah, so I have B7 marked.
Thank you.
Thanks, good catch. All right, anything else? Okay, well, this one seems pretty straightforward and a positive. I'm glad that this. Thanks you for your work, Kelly. And I know a lot of work always goes into CRs. So even getting it to this point is great. I have no doubt that it will be approved at this point. So
I think.
Yeah, go ahead.
Peter had sent me an email asking if biking could be added to the list of passive recreational activities.
Oh, okay. I'm just going to that section. Any commissioner comments or questions about that?
I think that sounds good.
Okay. And Peter, of course, you can speak up if you want as well.
Thank you, Kelly, for bringing it up. I had forgotten about that. I just think it's a nice thing to add for the community.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, if we're gonna have horseback riding and cross-country skiing, I see no reason why we wouldn't include biking and other similar.
I don't know that we ever will have any of those activities because it's a swamp, but the sewer easement goes through there and that's a little elevated and drier. So it's conceivable that there could be something on top of the sewer easement.
Are there, you reminded me of a question I had, just not specifically on the CR, but are there paths at all through this particular area now? No.
No, the only way to really get in there is to walk on the sewer easement.
Okay.
Which I haven't seen, it doesn't look like people are doing that.
Yeah. Is it otherwise in good, decent shape? In terms of invasives or trash or illicit activity?
That's what I mean, it's so surrounded by houses that there's no one who's really going in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Excellent. All right. Anything else before I make a motion on this one? Okay.
Nope.
So I would make a motion that we approve the conservation restriction for the Cedar Swamp. And I'm just looking to see if if I need to be any more specific with the location. Specifically off Plain Street in Braintree, obviously.
Can I make
Is there, as drafted and as amended during this meeting, to include Peter's amendment. Is there a second, Commissioner Hayward?
Second.
Okay, Commissioner Crowe?
Aye.
Commissioner Albrecht? Joyce, are you there? Commissioner?
Sorry, I had myself muted.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, Commissioner Francis?
Aye.
And Commissioner Williams?
Aye.
Okay, it's unanimous, 6-0-0. Well, thanks for making me feel better, Joyce. I wasn't the only one. And I realize, I'm sorry, everyone, I've been forgetting to ask after the second if there's, any further comment, but I think it probably goes without saying, but please jump in if we've gotten to that point and, we missed something you needed to say. I don't think it's required to do that. I try to do it because it feels like a nice practice, but obviously I completely forgot tonight, so. Okay. The last thing we have is approval of minutes from September 3rd. Any edits on the minutes? No? Okay, I'd make a motion to approve the minutes from September 3rd. Is there a second, Commissioner Hayward?
Second.
Commissioner Crowe?
Aye.
Commissioner Albrecht?
Do I need to abstain since I was not at that meeting?
Yeah, you can. I don't think you have to, but yeah, you can. I think most people do. And Commissioner Francis?
Aye.
And Commissioner Williams?
Aye.
Okay, so that is 5-0-1. Minutes are approved. Anything else under other business? Any last minute things that have come up?
I was just curious from Kelly if you had heard anything about 169 Walnut. That was a sort of fence across the river.
Yeah.
We're going to do the site visit.
I checked in because their deadline is coming up October 9th, and the owners reached out to the Army Corps, who apparently came out for a site visit, and she thinks that what she represented to me is that they were going back to look at the records, and maybe they intended or were supposed to do more along that channel that they didn't do, and she's waiting to hear back from them. So, I'd say we could give it, another few weeks after the 9th and hope that she hears from them. I probably will reach out to them myself just to see what's going on.
All right, thanks.
Yeah, thanks. I feel like there should be some sort of update for the next meeting.
Yeah.
That's interesting that the Corps actually came out. Okay, anything else? All right, then I'll make a motion to adjourn the meeting. Is there a second? Commissioner Hayward?
Second.
Okay, Commissioner Crowe?
Aye.
Commissioner Albrecht?
Aye.
Commissioner Francis?
Aye.
And Commissioner Williams?
Aye.
Unanimous, as always, 6-0-0. Never not been unanimous, Dad. It's so nice to see all your faces. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah.
I hope you're all doing well.
Going crazy, going crazy.
Well, we're doing pretty well. We've done a few of these now, so I guess it's safe to say though that we'll be doing another one next month as well.
Yep.
I don't see this format changing anytime soon.
No, exactly. At least we know we can do it.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, Kelly, and thanks, Steve.
All right.
And
Good night.
everyone.
Thank you. Good
Until
night.
next time.
Thank you.
Everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Good, you.